Have you ever looked at the news headlines today? The tensions in the Middle East, specifically between Israel and Iran, and wonder if there's more to the story than just politics? You're not alone. What if I told you that the conflicts we see unfolding on our screens might actually be echoing events and prophecies laid out in ancient texts centuries before they came to pass? It's an incredible idea, and one that has captivated scholars, theologians, and curious minds for generations. Today, we're going on an extensive journey through history, biblical prophecy, and current events to explore the profound connections that many believe link the ancient words of the Bible to the very real and intense relationship between modern-day Israel and Iran. This isn't about setting dates or predicting the exact future, but about understanding the deeper spiritual and historical currents at play, and how they might just be fulfilling a divine narrative. Now, it's important to approach this topic with an open mind and a spirit of discernment. Biblical interpretation can be complex, and while many see striking parallels, different perspectives exist. Our goal is to uncover these compelling connections and to see how what many considers an ancient book continues to speak powerfully to our world today. So, settle in, take a deep breath, and let's dive into this truly fascinating exploration. To truly grasp the long-standing tensions between Persia, which is modern-day Iran, and Israel, we need to rewind to one of the most dramatic stories in the Old Testament, the Book of Esther. This isn't just a tale of a brave queen, it's a chilling account of a calculated genocide. The antagonist, a high-ranking Persian official named Haman, was consumed by hatred for the Jewish people. His plan wasn't just to punish a few, it was to utterly exterminate every single Jew, young and old, women and children, throughout all the provinces of the vast Persian Empire. The decree he managed to get King Cyrus to sign was absolute and terrifying. Now, fast forward to today's headlines. Can you hear echoes of Haman's genocidal rhetoric in some of the statements made by certain factions within the Iranian regime regarding Israel? For instance, leaders within the Iranian government have, at times, openly called for the elimination of Israel, referring to it as a cancerous tumor that must be removed. This isn't just political posturing to many who study prophecy. It's a continuation of that ancient, deeply rooted animosity. From a biblical perspective, this isn't merely political or ethnic hatred. Many believe it's a spiritual battle. The Jewish people are central to God's plan throughout history. They are the lineage through whom Abraham's covenant promises would be fulfilled, the nation from which the Messiah, Jesus, would come. Therefore, any attempt to destroy them can be seen as a direct assault on God's divine purposes and his redemptive plan for humanity. Haman's plot was thwarted by God's providence through Esther, but the spiritual current of anti-Semitism, some argue, has unfortunately persisted, manifesting in different forms throughout history, and potentially in the modern Iranian rhetoric towards Israel. But the historical narrative between Persia and Israel isn't one-sided, and it's certainly not always about conflict. In fact, there was a period where Persia played a crucial, divinely appointed role in the restoration of the Jewish people. To understand this, we need to step back to the Babylonian exile. The Jewish people had been conquered and carried off to Babylon, their temple destroyed, their homeland desolate. This was a devastating time, a period of deep despair. Asterisk, however, the prophet Isaiah, who lived centuries before, had a remarkable prophecy. He prophesied by name a king who would bring about the return of the exiles and the rebuilding of Jerusalem and its temple. This king, Isaiah declared, would be Cyrus, a Persian ruler. Isaiah 44 verse 28, 45:1. Think about that for a moment. God named a king who wouldn't be born for another 150 years and specified his mission. True to prophecy, after conquering Babylon, Cyrus the Great issued a decree in 538 BC, allowing the Jews to return to their homeland and even provided funds for the rebuilding of their temple. This was an unprecedented act of religious tolerance and state-sponsored return. So, while we observe modern tensions, it's vital to remember that at a pivotal moment in biblical history, Persia, under King Cyrus, was actually an instrument of God's will, facilitating the return and restoration of his chosen people. This period shows that the relationship isn't monolithically one of animosity. There's a complex history that includes moments of surprising divine favor and cooperation. It illustrates that Persia was not always, and is not inherently, an enemy of Israel. Now, let's pull back the curtain on the spiritual realm, because the Bible reveals that earthly conflicts often have heavenly origins. The book of Daniel gives us an incredible, almost unsettling glimpse into this spiritual dimension. In Daniel chapter 10, the prophet is deeply troubled and fasting. An angelic being appears to him, but explains that he was delayed for 21 days in reaching Daniel because he was battling a demonic entity referred to as the Prince of the Kingdom of Persia. This angelic messenger was only able to get through when Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help him. This is a profound revelation. It tells us that behind the visible rulers and armies of nations, there are unseen, powerful spiritual forces at work, demonic princes influencing empires and angelic beings fighting for God's purposes. The Prince of Persia wasn't a human king, but a spiritual entity assigned to that geographic region, working to oppose God's will and influence the actions of human leaders. For many who believe in the reality of spiritual warfare, this ancient encounter has immense relevance for today. It suggests that the deep-seated animosity and geopolitical maneuvering of modern Iran, Persia, against Israel isn't just about politics, ideology, or resources. It's interpreted as the continued influence of these same spiritual forces, the Prince of Persia still at war, actively influencing the hostility and anti-Israel agenda of the current Iranian regime. This perspective elevates the conflict beyond mere human squabbles, placing it within the context of a cosmic struggle between good and evil, light and darkness. Moving from historical insights to future prophecies, we arrive at the book of Ezekiel, specifically chapters 38 and 39. These chapters contain one of the most talked about prophecies concerning the end times, the invasion of Israel by a vast coalition of nations led by Gog, of the land of Magog. What's incredibly significant for our discussion today is the clear listing of nations involved in this future attack. Among them, Ezekiel explicitly names Persia. This is where the connection to modern Iran becomes unmistakable for many prophecy scholars. They see this ancient prophecy as directly identifying present-day Iran as a key player in a future multinational alliance that will launch a massive assault on a regathered Israel. Other nations typically identified in this coalition include parts of modern-day Turkey, Meshech and Tubal, Sudan and Ethiopia, Cush and Libya, Put, along with Gomer and Beth Togarmah, also often linked to Turkey. Ezekiel's prophecy describes this war as divinely orchestrated, not just a random geopolitical event. God explicitly says he will put hooks in your jaws and bring you out, Ezekiel 38 verse 4, indicating that he is ultimately directing these nations to fulfill his purposes. The ultimate outcome of this war, according to Ezekiel, is not the destruction of Israel, but a dramatic, supernatural intervention by God himself to defend Israel. This intervention will be so overwhelming that it will reveal his power and holiness to the nations of the world, making them know that he is the Lord. For those watching current events, the alignment of nations and the rhetoric from Iran often bring Ezekiel 38 to 39 sharply into focus, suggesting a potential fulfillment in our near future. While much of the prophetic focus on Persia and end-time scenarios is about conflict, the Bible also contains a fascinating prophecy that offers a counter-narrative of hope and future restoration for the region. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49, the prophet delivers a message of judgment against various nations, including ancient Elam. Elam was a powerful kingdom located in what is now southwestern Iran. Jeremiah prophesies that God will shatter the might of Elam and bring disaster upon them. Jeremiah 49 verses 34 to 37. However, in the very next verse, Jeremiah delivers a surprising and hopeful promise. But in the latter days I will restore the fortunes of Elam, declares the Lord. Jeremiah 49 verse 39. This is a remarkable statement. Amidst prophecies of judgment, God declares a future restoration for Elam. For many, this restoration in the latter days suggests the possibility of a spiritual revival within Iran. Despite the current hostile political climate, There are reports of a growing underground church movement in Iran, with many individuals turning to Christianity. This often happens quietly, even secretly, given the dangers involved. This promise in Jeremiah 49 verse 39 is held by some as a beacon of hope, that even a nation prophesied to play a role in end-time conflict might also experience a profound move of God's Spirit, bringing many to salvation and potentially altering its long-term destiny. It reminds us that God's plans are multifaceted and always include a path for redemption, even for those currently in opposition to Him. No discussion of Middle Eastern prophecy would be complete without emphasizing the central role of Jerusalem. The Bible consistently presents Jerusalem as the focal point of God's plans, the city where God chose to place His name, and the ultimate stage for end-time events. The prophet Zechariah, for instance, prophesies, "On that day I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the peoples. All who lift it will surely hurt themselves, and all the nations of the earth will gather against it." Zechariah 12 verse 3. This prophecy vividly portrays Jerusalem as the immovable object, the global flashpoint that draws the attention and animosity of nations. When we look at the current geopolitical landscape, it's undeniable that Jerusalem is at the heart of many conflicts and diplomatic efforts. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the status of holy sites, and the claims of various nations to influence over the city all converge on Jerusalem. The tensions between Israel and Iran, with Iran's vocal opposition to Israel's presence in Jerusalem, and its support for groups aiming to challenge Israeli sovereignty over the city, directly tie into this prophetic narrative. Many believe that the escalating international focus and contention over Jerusalem is a clear sign that biblical prophecies regarding the city's end-time significance are indeed coming to pass. It underscores that these conflicts are not random, but part of a larger divine unfolding centered around this ancient and eternally significant city. So, with all these intricate connections between ancient prophecies and modern headlines, what does this mean for us today? The Bible doesn't just give us information about the future, it calls us to a response. Firstly, it encourages us to watch and discern the times. This isn't about fear-mongering or trying to predict the exact day or hour of prophetic fulfillment. Instead, it's about being spiritually alert, understanding that the events unfolding in the world are not just random chaos, but are part of a larger divine narrative that God is orchestrating. It means interpreting current events through the lens of Scripture, seeking to understand God's purposes rather than simply reacting to the daily news cycle. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, this understanding should lead us to prayer. The Bible calls us to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Psalm 122 verse 6. This is a direct command for believers to intercede for the city that is so central to God's heart and to future prophecy. But our prayers shouldn't stop there. If we believe in the possibility of spiritual revival in Iran, as hinted in Jeremiah's prophecy, then we are also called to pray for the people of Iran, for their salvation, for the growth of the underground church, and for God's mercy to be extended to that nation. It's a reminder that even in the midst of political and spiritual conflict, God is at work, and our prayers have a role to play. Friend, as we've journeyed through these ancient texts, from Haman's plot to Cyrus's decree, from Daniel's spiritual insights to Ezekiel's future prophecies, and Jeremiah's message of hope, and connected them to the very real and intense relationship between Israel and Iran today, I hope you've gained a deeper appreciation for the profound idea that there might be a much bigger story unfolding than what we see on the surface. For millions around the world, the Bible isn't just an ancient book. It's a living, breathing revelation that provides a framework for understanding the spiritual dynamics that drive national conflicts, shape the course of history, and point toward a glorious future where God's purposes will ultimately prevail. While the headlines can often feel overwhelming, understanding the potential prophetic significance can give us a sense of God's ongoing sovereignty, His meticulous plan, and His unwavering love for His people. It offers not fear, but a profound sense of hope and purpose, knowing that we are living in momentous times. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. If this exploration has stirred your spirit, sparked new questions, or simply opened your eyes to a new way of looking at current events, then please hit that like button and consider subscribing to our channel for more content like this. Your support helps us continue to share these powerful and relevant stories. What are your thoughts on these profound connections? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Until next time, may God bless you and give you wisdom to discern the times.